Rico, this is Doug. How you doing?
Hi, Douglas. This is Rocio. How are you?
Doing good. Did you get my message? I called a couple of days ago.
I did not. I'm curious, did you call my cell phone or my office phone number?
Office number. And there was nobody there on a Friday, so there was nobody working on Friday, I believe. But somehow, I don't know, it was Jessica. And also, I called Jessica as well at the Valley, and there was nobody answer. The reason why for my call was that uh, my stipend have not given to me through my Cash App because my Cash App had changed my my card. So I don't know if it got through or not. That's why I want to make sure to talk to you both of you guys whether or not I have to give you another paperwork to go through to my account again. That's all.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Douglas. I'll pass it to Laura since I know they do work with the stipends.
Yeah, hi Douglas, this is
Yeah.
Laura. Wondering if there's a specific month that you're referring to?
Yeah, last month.
Okay. I believe you were not here for the entire 90 minutes, but
I was.
we can go ahead and double check that and then get back to you offline. Since the meeting is gonna start in about a minute, I can commit to checking in with you and checking in with the air district as well.
Well, okay. So
Is that
because
okay with you?
we completed by because everybody was ready to leave that almost earlier then.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I, I said that last month the people that were in the meeting were about to leave early, and that's what I noticed it. It's not because I left; it's that everybody was already was saying goodbye. But that's what got my attention.
I think we can, this is Jessica. Hi everyone. I haven't been to this meeting in a while, but yeah, we'll call you tomorrow morning, Doug. Is that okay that
Okay.
we call you and work on it and figure it out? It could be a possibility that we just need to double check. And
Okay.
we'll make sure to, and we'll also double check to your point. If there's in addition something different in your bank account, we'll also make sure to get that updated.
Perfect. That's all I need to let you know. That's all. All right,
Great.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and definitely I'll be here. I'm here right now. So, okay.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Douglas, for elevating that. And Amy, wondering if you can provide Doug with the multi-pinning.
Yeah, on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It looks like it's 5 o'clock. Let me see. Folks are trickling in. I think we'll give them a couple minutes, if that's okay with you all. Perfect.
Hi, Douglas. This is Amy. You should be able to pin folks on your end.
Yes, thank you. I was looking for the feature. Thank you so much. Yeah, now I can pin my interpreter. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Douglas.
Hi, everyone. This is Laura. So we have 20 participants. I know a lot of us are either facilitators or AD, wondering if we want to wait a couple more minutes for more residents to join.
I wonder if we just wait till 5:04 and go ahead and get started, and hopefully by the time we get to content, folks are with us. I said that and it turned into 5:04. So maybe we can get started and be grateful for all of the folks that are able to join us right now, and catch up folks up to speed if they miss anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. Thank you, Jess. So hi, everyone. My name is Laura Martinez, and welcome to your 57th CSC meeting. We are in November. Can't believe that the year is coming to an end so soon. Thank you, as always, for your ongoing presence, input, and collaboration in the implementation of AB617 process in the Stockton community. As I mentioned, my name is Laura Martinez, and I am joined today by my colleagues, Amy Ramos and Jared Zachary, and we are from Harder & Company Community Research. And as always, we are delighted to be facilitating your meeting today. As many of you know, with every presidential election, the outcome influences policies that may impact the Stockton community directly. It is important for you all to stay involved and engage in your community to continue the work forward, and it is equally important for you to take care of yourselves and prioritize your mental health. So just want to take a quick moment to acknowledge that we did come to a presidential election yesterday, and that happens every 4 years, as many of you know. So wanting to take that moment to acknowledge it, didn't feel right to move the meeting forward without taking a pause there. So with that, let's go ahead and continue with our scheduled items. Today's agenda is designed to provide you with an annual report update and clean air rooms update. During these agenda items, the Air District is asking for your feedback directly on the draft annual report and thoughts on expanding the clean air rooms measure. Apologies. We can go ahead and walk through meeting logistics as folks are trickling in. Though this is familiar for many of you, it's always helpful to have a refresher. So let me go ahead and pull those slides up. All right, can you all see my screen? Looks like you can. Awesome. So before we get started, please go ahead and mute yourself and make sure your full name and organization are shown as your screen name. To change your screen name, you can click on the right side of your picture and video. There you will see 3 dots. A little menu will pop up and you can click rename. CSC members, please use the naming convention CSC- first name last name, and residents, please use the naming convention R- first name last name. All other participants, you can use first name, last name, and affiliation, such as this example given here. And for example, AD or CARB for Air District and California Air Resource Board staff, and P for general public. And all other orgs, please write your org name. And reminder, having the right screen name is important for CSC member attendance tracking. And just to note, the meeting hosts, such as myself, Amy, Jared, or folks from the Air District, can update your screen name during the meeting to ensure that we have your correct name on the attendance. Right, how can you link your 2 devices? You can click on this little microphone. A little caret will show up, and you can click switch to phone audio, and you can connect your devices together. Again, for folks trickling in, please change your screen name. You can do that by clicking the top right of your name. Little menu will pop down, and you can change your naming convention to CSC- first name last name, R for residents, AD CARB, and P for general public. Again, we will be manually renaming you, asking you if we have any questions, and reminder that having the right screen name is important for attendance tracking. Our virtual meeting etiquette, you guys You all are very great at this, so please stay on mute unless you're speaking or planning to speak, and you can use *6 if participating by phone to mute yourself. To raise your hand, you can use *9. If you're doing it via phone, residents in the stipend program, you should all stay for at least 75% of the meeting to be eligible for a stipend, so that is 90 minutes of a 2-hour meeting. And please state your name before sharing a comment to allow for smooth interpretation of our conversation and to make sure that everyone knows who is speaking. In order to have a productive conversation, we will help achieve the meeting goals by focusing on solutions, opportunities, and productive dialogue. We will let everyone participate by stepping up and stepping back. We will be civil and respectful. It's okay to disagree, but please be respectful, empathetic, and civil. We will stay on point and on time by keeping comments brief to the point, and this will allow for enough time for everyone to participate. We will attack the problem, not the person. We will respectfully challenge ideas, outcomes, and never attack the person. And we will honor every person's humanity and dignity. And we will also seek common ground by building consensus and finding shared values that will help achieve the best results. For today's agenda, we are partaking in our welcome and introductions. We will review the action items tracker, then jump into the main topics of today, which are the annual report update and the clean air rooms update. And we will transition to standing updates, wrapping up a next step, and public comment. All right. If there's any agreements that you would like to add, please feel free to use these meetings or at the agenda setting meetings, or email us if there's anything you would like to add to these group agreements. We sadly do not have a co-host for today's evening. However, friendly reminder that if you're interested in being a part of the facilitation team, we invite you to consider volunteering to be a co-host for future months. And before moving further along, we want to take a quick moment to acknowledge that there was confusion around the voting and consensus process and who is not eligible to vote. To get everyone on the same page, we would like to take some time to review the voting consensus and protocol, which is also reflected in your charter. And team, I'm wondering, Jared, Amy, wondering if someone can post the charter directly on the chat. All right, let me go ahead. There's like this little arrow. There you go. So deliberation and consensus / voting. So this is taken directly from your charter. And as our team members are working on putting that on the screen, this is all directly from there. So all CSC members are eligible to participate in the consensus and voting process. Note that government officials are not eligible to cast a vote. However, they are encouraged to serve in an advisory role in final consensus and decision-making processes. Thank you, Amy and Rocio, for posting the charter. Feel free, folks, to take a look. Achieving full consensus of the steering committee may not always be possible, and we have known that. I feel like we've participated in enough consensus and voting to know that that's not always the case. So in the absence of consensus, a majority of vote, 50% plus 1 of all community steering committee members present at the time of the vote, or designated alternates in attendance in the absence of the primary member will be taken. CSC members shall be present for voting. No absentee voting shall be permitted. If a primary member is unable to attend, the designated alternate on the steering committee roster may deliberate and consensus and voting process. And reasonable and equitable efforts capture the perspectives expressed in the meeting minutes, committee documents, and related reports. Margot.
Hi, yeah, Laura, it sounded like you brought this up because there was a problem. Was there a problem with our voting?
There wasn't a problem, Margot, with the voting. It was some confusion around the voting. I think that last month there was a mishap on how I phrased some things. So just really wanted to take that time to acknowledge that there was some confusion and to encourage you all to step forward if there's any questions. And I see Jess, you unmuted.
Yeah, I don't mind clarifying. There was just confusion. There was a confusion based on Laura's comment on whether or not alternate members were eligible to vote. And so we just wanted to clarify the voting and consensus process. We actually don't, tonight we're going to take a little temperature check on something, but we don't have a big decision tonight. But we did promise this person that we would review that and let folks know. I don't think it's really been an issue in the past, but I do think, to Laura's point, there was a moment where, in an attempt to clarify, it might have been confusing, and one person reached out and mentioned that it was confusing. So one of the things that we'll operationalize in the future is just making sure folks that are alternate, what we'll do is we'll ask or double check and maybe even clarify, hey, you're an alternate member. Is your primary member planning to attend, or are they in attendance? We'll of course check that on our end, and then we'll just go through as we've done with every other vote that we've ever taken. Cynthia.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. Evening, Cynthia with CVAC. I do want to clarify that I believe the exact language that was used last month was that alternatives were not able to vote. So I really appreciate y'all going through this and that specific point there where if the primary member is not able to attend, designated alternatives are able to attend. And I believe somebody else brought this up, asking that clarifying question. So there was not only confusion, the confusion was because of the exact statement that they said that alternates couldn't vote.
Right. Okay. So we clarified it now, and I appreciate the point. Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah, and thanks for going over this again. Really appreciate it.
Of course. And yeah, at any time, to be really explicit, all CSC members are eligible to vote, and alternates are eligible to vote when their primary is not present. The reason you all partake in voting is because you are representing the community you live in. And if at any point we as facilitators cause any confusion, we highly encourage you and welcome you to pause us and ask any clarifying questions. And that invitation is really open at any time. If anything we say causes confusion, let us know in real time so we can go ahead and fix that and get an alignment in our understanding together. So right now, our next slide will be just a quick overview of what we've done as a CSC together. But really glad that this framing has been helpful for your understanding, and again, highly encourage not only CSC members, but Air District and HNCO team to let us know if any of us have like a mishap in our framing. We really welcome the feedback. Okay, so the facilitation team will ensure questions about agenda topics are clearly answered. In the process of providing clarification, we will assess if CSC members are leaning towards consensus. If achieving consensus isn't clear, an official vote may be called. So this is a process we've taken for consensus. We ask eligible voting CSC members if anyone would like to state their opposition to the proposal. If the majority of eligible CSC members are in favor, we will not send members into a breakout room for a formal vote. And we will also take note of any opposition for further inquiry. And that's again to get everyone's perspective. If we do move into voting, we will send eligible voting CSC members to a smaller breakout room if there is no consensus. In the breakout room, we will call the name of each eligible CSC voting member. The eligible CSC member will cast their yes/no vote. We as facilitators will record members' vote and finalize results, and then we will share results in the main room with all present attendees. So I'll take a pause here, ask if there's any questions, comments, or concerns coming up. I see Margot and Cynthia, you two already asked a few questions, so glad we were able to get that. I'm wondering if there's anything else coming up for folks. Okay, I don't see any hands up or anything in the chat. So with that, I'll pass it to Jessica from the Air District for welcoming remarks.
Hi, everyone. I get the pleasure of being with you tonight, which I know Stephanie has had that pleasure for a long time. And for a variety of reasons, it just worked out for me to be in space with you all tonight, which to me really is an immense honor. I know it's been a long week. And I just want to once again reiterate the way that Laura just did, my appreciation for you all the past 5 years and my appreciation for you all tonight and into the future. We're working together on some really, really neat things. And tonight, we get to really celebrate it all and show you an annual report that we've put together based on all your cool work, and hear from you how you want to keep highlighting all the work we've done together. I'm really excited, and I want to thank you all for being here. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. It's a pleasure having you here today. As always, we will go ahead and spend a few minutes reviewing the action items tracker. As you all are familiar, the action items tracker is a tool that we use to help develop transparency and accountability between the Air District and the community. And the Air District is continuously updating the tracker to ensure your voices are being heard and progress implementing your suggestions are being made. As a reminder, at the end of every meeting, we share these action items and encourage any members to add any action items that should be tracked that we may have missed. And as Rocio provides updates, please feel free to ask for clarification. Passing it to you, Rocio.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening, everyone. This is Rocio. And let me go ahead and start sharing my screen so we can get started with the action items. Okay, can folks see my screen? Seeing some head nods, thank you. Okay, so today we have action items in the completed and ongoing section. So we're actually going to get started with the ongoing section. And so for the first action item, we are super excited that Little Manila Rising's urban greening and vegetative barriers tree project proposals reached consensus at the last CSC meeting. And so as next steps, the district will work to contract with Little Manila Rising to implement these two projects. And Little Manila Rising will make sure to return to future CSC meetings to share any updates that they have. And moving on to the next action item. So this was a request to discuss and give more updates on the clean air rooms. So we will be having a few updates on that today. And I will pause right here. I see Mary Elizabeth, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, so any updates? So we're not going to get quarterly updates. So, I'm just worried, if it takes a long time to get started, right? We're not going to get any updates and we're not going to know that it's not started. So, I kind of want to make sure that we get some, regularity and accountability there. So I would imagine it would be not unreasonable to ask for quarterly reports.
This is Jess. I agree. I think that's a good tag to that. And I can imagine that we can, when working with Little Manila, that we can expect that or more frequent, I would hope. So I think that's a great suggestion to add that frequency, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. Great question. And thanks, Jess, for that answer. I also agree that I think quarterly meetings can, we can receive updates then, if not more frequently. Okay, so go ahead and moving on to the completed section. And so for this action item, it was a request from the CSC to receive an update from CARB regarding their research methods for tracking how weather variability may impact the air quality in the Stockton AB617 community. And so we do have Kyle from CARB here with us today that is going to share a quick update with the CSC. And I'll go ahead and pass it on to you, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, Rocio. And hey, everybody, this is Kyle Goff from CARB. Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to give everyone a little bit of an update on like where we're at with kind of figuring out an answer to that question from Douglas a couple of meetings ago. So basically, first thing, I just kind of wanted to lay out the question, at least as I understand it. But I also wanted to point out that kind of as is, it's a big question. And so kind of what I asked from my more research-oriented and science-oriented colleagues here at CARB, I asked them essentially, can dry air, often transported down south and into the San Joaquin Valley, interact with accumulated steam and other water-based emissions from the port or like local weather patterns like fog banks, potentially impact the formation of air pollution, basically. So that's kind of the question that I asked them. And so like I sort of clumsily alluded to at our last meeting, I like I said, I checked in with folks here at CARB, both from the research division as well as the air quality planning and science division. And so they each shared some information with me about the question. Both sets of folks did kind of echo the idea that like the question is very broad and generalized. And so the answers they were able to give me are kind of maybe a little too general or too vague to be useful or really actionable. And so they mentioned like if we can track down those articles that Douglas Vigil had mentioned reading, that extra context could really help us distill the question down into something maybe a good way to put it is a little more meaty for my colleagues to chew on. Yeah, basically our air quality planning and science folks, they let me know that there definitely is a significant link and meteorological component to air pollution formation and like weather patterns and relative humidity. Basically, in other words, weather patterns and atmospheric conditions can have a really big impact on how pollution forms and spreads, depending on what kind of pollutants we're talking about. They did share kind of an example that like higher temperatures and more amounts of sunlight reaching their surface are both necessary to kickstart the photochemistry for ozone production, which occurs on smog-forming pollutants, primarily like oxides of nitrogen or NOx. You may hear us use that term all the time. And on the other hand, cooler and more moist conditions can instead lead to things like ammonium nitrate to form instead. Meanwhile, on the research side of things, my research folks that I reached out to, they noted that they'd never really heard of something like industrial emissions of steam or water vapor leading to direct impacts on local climate or air pollution, but they did note that kind of similarly to what our air quality planning folks said, they did mention that emissions of steam or water vapor, similar to what our air quality planning folks said, moisture and relative humidity can broadly play a role in formation of small particulate matter like PM2.5 or PM10. They also mentioned that there have been apparently some recent trend analyses of pollution statewide that suggests that lower particulate pollution may correlate with a reduction in local smog formation. The gist I got from that comment was that it's kind of like cutting edge research going on, maybe not at CARB specifically, but by atmospheric scientists abroad, so to speak. But yeah, that's kind of all the information I've been able to gather up so far. Like I said, if we can further kind of refine the question, I can certainly circle back to the folks I know, both the research and the air quality planning and science folks, find out more information. Can also see about if there's interest and certainly if there's time and folks packed agendas here, we could see about getting folks from either team, see if maybe any of them are available to join for like a future CSC meeting. Just wanted to throw that out there. That's as with any requests coming our way at CARB, that is absolutely an option to consider. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at so far. I see, Mary Elizabeth, I see you got your hand up. I'm not a facilitator, but I figured I'd point it out since I'm talking.
Yeah, this is Laura. Yeah, thank you, Kyle, for that. You did a great job facilitating. Mary Elizabeth, feel free to ask your question, comment.
Mary Elizabeth, I think that was in regard to the DTE biomass facility. And I would like to attest to the fact that there is more than steam coming from the emissions of that facility. There is definitely more than steam. And I went to a GSNR meeting in Jamestown on Monday, and my ride, was talking about it because that's related to using wood for electrical production overseas. And so I said, well, we can just take the 4, and just swing right down through there. And I know that it's all lit up. So we did, and I will tell you, and it's not, I have now a witness there was definitely more than steam coming out of those stacks, and the turbines had steam coming out of them as well. So it wasn't just the main stack. And we both, took some pictures. I stayed in the car. She took some pictures, and that 5 minutes that we were sitting there, both of us had a headache. And it was like a strong smell that you could smell, sweet like, and organic like. And so, Doug, I hope that we continue, and I plan on asking at the end of the meeting, that the mobile, and so I'll just do it now for expediency, and the mobile van, I've asked about it, when can we have it? When can we have a monitoring meeting? Nothing, not any follow-up on that. I want to see a mobile van collecting data from around that DTE, because Doug is right. There's more than steam coming out of that wood biomass facility, and I believe as well. I also have submitted for everyone here a letter to regarding the follow-up from a regulatory report that was presented to us all, the quarterly regulatory report. And I asked, it said on there, DTE got a notice of violation for not having had a source test. And the source test is the means by which their emissions are calculated for compliance. And so then that's the only time, once a year, evidently. And so I put in a public records request for that, California PRA, and I did not receive the notice of violation. On another project that I put in a separate PRA, I got the notice of violation, and I followed up with that. And so the Delta Sierra Group wrote a letter to the Air District about enforcement transparency. Thank you.
This is Laura. Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. I do see a comment in the chat from Debbie. Totally agrees. Let's get the mobile out there. Let's get that mobile out there. Thank you for expressing your experience, Mary Elizabeth. Do see Cynthia, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Cynthia here with CVAC, and I want to thank Mary Elizabeth for bringing this up. I wanted to bring to the CSC's attention that back in July, when the CARB board adopted the latest clean air plan for PM 2.5, they did commit to a stationary source review that advocates throughout the valley had been asking for since 2019. And I want to point that out, that environmental groups throughout the valley, as a part of the CVAC coalition, are pushing to get some of those answers to what you're pointing to, Mary Elizabeth, what the violations are, and making that more publicly accessible. So I wanted to let y'all know that that's something that's happening as well, and happy to provide updates as it gets into motion. I know our Valley board member, Dr. Tanya Pacheco Warner, is heavily supported that this past July and is committed to seeing this done in a timely manner within the next year, is what she mentioned in her comments. But just wanted to bring that to folks' attention. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I know it's still in the working phase.
I agree with Mary Elizabeth. I think we need to bring those back for more research on that, on the climate changes, on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jessica, I'll let you go.
No, it's okay. Maybe I'll take Margot's comment first, and then I have some commitments and follow-up.
Yeah, I just hope we can put that on our action list to have this as an ongoing review each until we have the information we want. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Margot. And maybe I can help clarify that action, because I wonder too, I think there's a little difference there's an extension, I would say, based on the original request, and then now some great input from Mary and from Cynthia as well, that calls out specifically a particular source that I want to make sure we do address and do have a chance to go over. I'm wondering if, in addition to reporting here to the larger committee, we also, if we don't already have specific agenda items that are higher ranking, our next regulatory enforcement subcommittee, we have in the past talked about DTE, but now since then there have been several compliance actions and requests from community members that we would love to sit down and explain and work out with folks and talk once again about like the different components. I think Mary Elizabeth brings up a good reminder and good point about how we follow up with all of those things. And I'd love to have a more in-depth discussion on that at our next regulatory and enforcement subcommittee. And we can work with Debbie, if that's okay with you, Debbie, as the point person for that, to then bring up key points to that during the regular CSC meeting so that everyone's always informed about that. I just wanted to see if that landed with folks.
This is Margot. That sounds good. And I have been thinking a lot lately. I'm not ready to talk about it now, but when we started this process and we were looking at where do we want to have our air monitors and what are our SERPs going to look like, and you know, there was so much discussion too about the little barbecue stands in the city and that kind of thing. And I just want to make sure we're focused on the very large problems that are out there at this point in time. I think they've gotten lost, and there's only so much we can do with the SERPs, but awareness and what actions we might take might be a really good discussion here. Thank you.
Margot, I see some agreement, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's a good reminder and maybe a good tee up. This is sort of something we'll talk about at the end, but we'd love our next meeting to be a kickoff for the year of things like that. Not just today is more about reviewing what we've done this year, which we have done a lot, but also we'd love to tee up maybe a reframing to Margot's point about let's take a minute, think about what our intentions are and what things we can do. And also, you know, what things we can pivot on. Maybe we've learned some things and now we need to change course based on what we've learned. I'll also say in terms of commitment as well is we're committed, and I'm committed to making sure we get the van out to the places in need. So I want to just make sure that that's clear too, that that's something I will make sure our team works on. And I will follow up with you all on that commitment. So thank you. Go ahead, Mary.
Yes. So in regards to the van, I've been asking for us to have a air quality monitoring subcommittee report and meeting. And so, you know, just you coming once a month, I think, you know, we really need to get that van using. And I know that it's been at least 3 months that I've been asking for that van, you know, to be put someplace in Stockton. So, you know, another month, right? You know, now we're looking at 6 months to, you know, and we were committed that that was, you know, something where we can put and take measurements for a while to find out, you know, like, is this a problem? And, you know, so I'm not satisfied with that myself. So I would like to see that subcommittee resurrected, please.
Thank you. I think we made it the entire August meeting, but to your point, that was 3 months ago instead of making it a subcommittee. But I'm happy to also add a subcommittee where we can dig deep into it. If that helps, can maybe kickstart the process between now and our next meeting. So I'll write that as an action item too, please, Harder. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. This is Laura. Thank you all for that engaging discussion. I know that Rocio was reading off the action items tracker, wondering if there's anything else coming up. Rocio?
This is Rocio. That was all of the action items, Laura. Thank you for checking, and happy to take any more questions if folks have any.
Yeah, thank you. I do see Debbie's hand raised. Debbie, feel free to unmute.
I'm having trouble today. I apologize. I'm not remembering. There we go. It's been a while for me here. So in regards to this mobile thing, and in regards to the subcommittee to kind of recreate a subcommittee, rather than do that, I know we just had an enforcement committee up, but is there any way that we could have an enforcement meeting combined, or basically use the enforcement meeting as that subcommittee meeting, rather than have to go through maybe 2 or 3 months to get a subcommittee together?
This is Jessica. Yeah, that's definitely a good possibility. What we can do is, as we look at the calendar to schedule something, especially with the holidays coming up, it might even be hard to find one date. So I wonder if that makes sense, and we can reach out to folks. We can make it a little bit longer and maybe reach out to a couple, whether it's you, Debbie. I'm also happy to reach out to Cynthia and Mary, other folks that are really engaged on this topic, and maybe we can come up with something that makes sense. But if we can't find something, I'm also happy to make it 2 committees. And even if we have to bring some of the same people, we're happy to do that. So I think it's a great concept, and maybe that can be the path forward if possible.
Whatever's quicker to get this going, because if there's a problem there, we really need to find out, especially if they've already been tagged. So
thank you.
That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I appreciate it.
This is Laura. Kyle, we see you posted a few things on the chat, wondering if you want to elevate anything, or if you just want me to read that off for folks. Maybe you can summarize. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I didn't want to take up more time yapping away at folks. Yeah, I just wanted to note I'll make sure to filter word about this up to my management, just to kind of get the wheels turning at CARB maybe sooner rather than later, so that if we can have a role in this, maybe me looping in or bringing in some of our monitoring or regulatory or enforcement folks. Word will already have filtered up, basically. So just wanted to note that I'm gonna see to that.
This is Laura. Thank you, Kyle, for expanding on that. Cynthia, I see that you mentioned that would be great. Enforcement Dictions is leading on the stationary source review for the Valley.
Whoops, sorry, typed too fast. Division, my bad.
Division, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
I have a question.
Yes, go for it, Everett.
Do we have a standing position from any one of these companies that you're mentioning of what particulars or what particles are coming out already, or can we ask of them for what they say is coming out of the stacks or whatever the problem that we're talking about, so that we can know basically what we're looking for and what they are already stating, because there should be some type of standard there that should be there from each company.
Thank you, Everett. That's a great question. After I'm done speaking, I'll drop in the chat the presentation that we gave. So just as a reminder, all stationary sources that are permitted in the Valley, we have what's called an inventory. So great, exactly to what Everett was just talking about. We know based on a variety of different factors, whether it's direct measurements, as we were talking about, or it's a combination of emissions factors and process rates. We know what emissions should be on normal operations coming out and where they should be coming out of every piece of that facility. To that point, that's actually how we determine whether or not folks are in compliance or not, at least on that part of their permit. So one of the big pieces of that in a lot of cases is folks calling in, filing complaints, or us going and doing our random inspections. All of that is something that we go over, and I would love to reiterate because it's been some time in our upcoming our upcoming regulatory and enforcement committee where we can go into detail. But Everett, I'll drop in the chat specifically all of those details about this facility folks are asking about. And in that presentation, you'll also see from us the work that we do as a district to help those folks maintain and make sure that they're not exceeding what is, you know, their threshold for and allowed by their permit.
And thank you, Jessica. This is Laura. Again, thank you all for that engaging conversation. I think this would be a great time to transition our conversation to the annual report update, given how excited you all are to provide suggestions to better and strengthen your communities. Is that okay with you all? Awesome. All right. So thank you, Rocio, for providing us with updates on the action items progress. And thank you, everyone, again, for your collaboration in this conversation. At this time, we're going to transition our conversation to the annual report update. As a reminder, the Air District puts together this report on a yearly basis to summarize Stockton SERP implementation highlights and the progress over the past year. At this phase, the report is a draft, and the final report will be presented to the district governing board in December. So today, the Air Districts would very much like your feedback on how to improve the draft annual report to be representative of your community. You will have the opportunity to provide feedback in real time, and if you need more time, you will have until November 18th, which gives you about 2 weeks to share your feedback with the Air District. So I will pass it to Jessica to present the annual report update.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, everyone. A big shout out to Rocio on our team, who was the lead on putting this report together. But in reality, you all put this report together. Some of you might see pictures of events you've been at or other things that have happened throughout the district or throughout really your community in this report. We are trying a different approach this year to make it community friendly and more accessible for folks. I'll just say 2 things about what you're about to see is that this is called a story map. So it's a little bit of a more visual way to see the report. But that will not replace the fact that as we're reviewing it today, folks that need it or request it, we will also have hard copies for folks to review. So as I'm saying that, please put in the chat if you would also like a hard copy to review. I know I'm one of those people that likes to look at things on paper and use my pen to mark things up. But also we're just really excited to share with you what we think is just a better visual representation of all of the work we've been able to do. So I'm going to scroll and then stop at a couple of places and kind of get your feedback. But in reality, this is intended, once we're done with each community, we're going to actually have a big annual report that has all 4 communities. As you know, and I'll kind of scroll through, we actually have 2 communities that were selected in 2018, Fresno and Shafter. 1 community, you all, was selected in 2019. Arvin Lamont was selected in 2021. And then we're here today with a lot of progress, but definitely a lot more to go and a lot more work to happen. But we also want to take some time to celebrate all of the progress we've made just this year. So this first slide is actually kind of a cool way to go through, and any one of these, once we're finished with all of them, today you'll only see Stockton, but eventually you'll see all four. You can actually, through this mechanism, click on any one of these communities. It will zoom in on the community, talk a little bit about the community itself, and allow you to jump to the annual report that I'll show you in a second. But we think it's just a cool way for folks to interact a little bit more with the work that's being done. You can fly over the valley and see all of the other communities that we're working in, or you can exit out of it and just move on to kind of the juicy part of the report, which is all of the work you've done. So the first part is pretty similar to what you've seen, which is really just an explanation to anyone that you might share this with. Say it's a neighbor who wants to know what you do on the first Wednesday of every month, or someone you want to be activated. Maybe it's a student you work with or someone you know that's working in the organization that you're a part of, and you want to describe what AB617 is, what the community of Stockton is all about, and what we've been able to do. That is summarized in these few paragraphs. This isn't much different than what we've been able to describe the past few annual reports. But we did streamline it so it wasn't too much for folks to read, but also allowed folks to understand the work that you all do. And really, the main part of the report and what we're interested in getting feedback from you all is we have 6 highlights that we are planning to share through this report of great events that happened in your community this year. So the first is our lawn mower exchange events. So as you can see, and I'll just kind of start here as I scroll down again, you'll notice up here, this is a map, and on each point, you'll see a number. And as you scroll down, you'll see a little write-up here of the work that's been done. This in particular is a really, I think, positive, exciting expression of all of the lawnmowers we exchanged with you all just back in May. And you can scroll through and learn about it, and you can actually click here and scroll through some pictures of the event as well. Notice some of our CSC members on here if you haven't noticed, but also, you know, Samir and some of our community members, Stephanie and Rocio and Cass. So just a lot of really cool work that we get to highlight, we think, better with this type of report rather than just a big long like printout. In the past, we've hardly had any pictures in our report, and it's maybe not as enticing for folks to come and learn about what you all do. Our second highlight is how we all worked with you all at our in-person meeting to really drive a few measures and also take a tour with you all of the Port of Stockton. We think this was a really pivotal day. We made a lot of decisions, if you recall, on a few measures moving forward. We learned about a lot of really cool things the port was doing, both with 617 and with some of the advocacy that they've been doing with you all outside of 617. And again, it's a nice summary of all of the work you all did to help us get to that meeting. The next highlight are the new bike lanes to be installed. That was one of the decisions we made kind of after that meeting with the city of Stockton, and definitely something we're excited to share with other folks as we move forward about how that money is going to be used and how it will impact your community. This one, we took the liberty of being so excited about the decision you all made last month, and we added this to the report. Obviously, we don't have a picture of trees being planted, so full transparency, you all know that that just got launched. This is a picture of what it would look like. This is the analogous project or a very similar project that happened in Shaftard not too long ago. And so we just wanted to share that this is a type of project that would happen in the area. We talk a little bit about when the decision was made by you all to support these projects, talk about the partners on these projects, and just really highlight all of the work you all did to get us there. The last two, the first is bringing cleaner cars to the Stockton community. This is our passenger vehicle replacement workshop. This again has a lot of great pictures of community members meeting with our Valley CAN partners, getting signed up to get their vehicle replacement funding so they can go out and buy a new vehicle and replace their old polluting vehicle. And then finally, one of the biggest things we've been doing year to year, but I think this was the biggest year yet, is all of the back to school outreach we did in every community. This, I'm guessing by some of the costumes, was just in October. As some of the back to school outreach we've been able to do to tell people about the programs that you all help us support. And then finally, as of right now, this is where it will end, but I'll caveat that with a couple of additions. I'll let you know right now. We also want to, of course, point folks to the SERP tracker. At any point, this will be live. So at any point, if someone clicks this in 3 months, it will take them to the most current up-to-date SERP tracker. But we also wanted to show folks kind of some of the progress we've made. This is another graphic that was in your report last year, and we've been able to update it and make a lot more progress this year than we have in the past. I will pause there. I'll take any questions, and then after questions, I'll talk a little bit about some of the enhancements we also want to do based on your feedback over the next few weeks. And I'm sure it happened already, but I can't see the chat. You are all, I failed to say this, but Rocio put in the chat a version that you can click on if you haven't already been clicking through right now with me. And thank you for those that indicated you'd like a hard copy. I am right there with you. Awesome. Well, I'll just, as you're thinking maybe of some feedback, and I'll maybe ask you a couple prompting questions in a second. I'll add 2 other things that we'd like to include in here. One is just a roll-up of all of the quarterly enforcement reports that you've already seen. We'll add those links in here so folks are able to see those and get a picture of enforcement actions that have happened over the year. And the second is for the larger report, each year we also talk about over time, kind of just general regulatory actions that have happened. And we definitely don't want to miss the opportunity to let folks know. So when you see the larger report, it's going to be the same thing that's been in every report every year. Just an update on rules and regulations that have been amended. And that hasn't changed since you've seen it last year. So it's actually now kind of a static report, but of course, moving into the future, that might change as well.
Thank you, Jess. This is Laura. I see a question from Mary Elizabeth. Is there a fixed PDF?
A fixed PDF, meaning once we like print it, that will be like it will stand in time. Is that your question, Mary? Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm. Sorry,
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yes. And that's actually a great question. Including the tracker, we will fix it and memorialize it in time. That's a great point. And we can go ahead and not only send it out to those that have requested it, but we'll also post it so that you can kind of see what it looked like in time. And then something I was just reflecting on is I know we said the 18th, but we'd like to make it a full 2 weeks. So we'll make the deadline the 20th for folks to get us feedback. And of course, call us or reach out to us if you still have questions or comments after that. It just helps us incorporate your feedback and get it back out to you before we do what the exciting part is we get to brag about you all and about the work you all have helped us do to our board in December and to CARB shortly after that, who even though Kyle, I'm sure, spreads the good word month to month, I know they're eagerly awaiting this as well. So maybe I'll just leave you with 2 things that I'd like to see. One is, are we capturing the highlights that we're capturing? Are we capturing them the way that you feel about them and the way that they've progressed? And 2 is, are we missing a highlight of something you feel we've accomplished or something that you feel like we've been building towards? Maybe it's not quite finished, that you also want to capture in there. So just maybe think of those. You don't have to answer right now, but definitely when we send out the email prompting that feedback, we'll put those prompting questions for you to think about, and definitely something we'd be eager to hear. All right. Well, if there's nothing right now, I'll work with Rocio to make sure that we print that out and send it out to all of those that put it in the chat. It's not too late to request that. And then again, we'll follow up with an email for folks to remind you that we'd like some of that feedback. Thank you.
This is Laura. Yeah, thanks, Jessica, for taking us through that. And before we transition, just want to ask if there's anything that stands out for you all that you really, really want emphasized in this report. And again, I know Jess asked this, but if there's things that you're proud of and want to highlight, we welcome that so that your district can add that in there. So we'll just take a quick pause here and see if there's anything coming up for folks, either on something that stands out for you that you really want to emphasize in the report, or if there's things that you're proud of that you want to elevate at this time. All right, so I don't see anything going on in the chat. Let me check. Nothing going on in the chat, no questions asked, no one unmuting. So I think we can transition the conversation. And as Jess mentioned, we would love your recommendations and your feedback. So folks who mentioned that they want a hard copy, be on the lookout for that. And yeah, I encourage folks to take a look and take a deeper dive into this content. All right, so with that, we will transition the conversation to the Clean Air Rooms update. So I'll pass it to my colleague, Jared, to get us started with that conversation.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone. This is Jared speaking. Thank you all so much for engaging in our previous agenda items. That report is absolutely beautiful, and I think it's a testament to the great progress you all are making for cleaner air in the community. And we really look forward to seeing the final product of the annual report. During October's meeting, we were able to briefly touch on the Clean Air Rooms update, and we wanted to bring it back this month to have more time to talk through recent outreach efforts and opportunities to expand the program to reach more sensitive populations in the Stockton AB617 boundary. The Air District will be proposing to continue outreach as they've been doing and to expand the program to reach out to other sensitive populations. The Air District took note of all the suggestions and avenues you all suggested they look into during last month's CSC meeting, and they will be showing you all the different types of outreach they have done. While the Air District is presenting, feel free to ask any questions or pause for any clarification. And with that, I will pass to the Air District.
Hello again, it's me. But you won't just be hearing from me right now. I'm gonna share my screen. I think Jared teed it up really nicely. So I'll just say that we'll have an update from one side of the house from our incentives team about the incentives program itself. And then we'll have an update from Cass, who you all know really well, specifically about the outreach. And then we'll transition to remind you about the expansion that we're eager to just get some feedback on from you all. Before we get started, it looks like Doug has a question and I'd love to hear from them.
Thank you, Jessica. I have a question. I know today is November month. Is this going to be the last meeting for the rest of the year, or are we going to have another meeting for December? So it is like a review for the following for January. That'd be great to have that information now than wait until December, and hopefully that the thing that we accomplished, you just saw. Do you have that on video as well, instead on the magazine as well, or that you show when you show the presentation?
The annual report that I just went through?
Yes.
Do we have it on video? Is that your question?
Yes.
We do not, but that's actually an interesting concept of us walking through it and recording it on video, and that's something that we can consider. I hadn't even considered that.
Because for people with disability, they have lack of attention span when it comes to reading. It's not okay. I use AI to read for me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But as far as visual, it will hold my attention more than just actually reading the whole scenario. You know what I mean? So it'll bring a better attention span. You know what I mean? That's all. Thank you.
I would love to take that. We call something when it's kind of a new concept here at the district internally, we call them STAR suggestions. It's sort of our internal work culture. And I'm taking that as such. That's a great suggestion for accessibility that I hadn't even considered. And I really love that approach. That's definitely something we'll work on. I think that's a cool concept, and we'll see how we can make it work to where it's accessible and digestible. That's exactly the type of thing we wanted in this, was to make it shorter and more digestible. And I think what you just described is another approach to
Yes,
that.
yes, thank you.
Yes, I think that's great. Thank you, Douglas. We do not intend to have our next meeting until February. For a variety of reasons. We always skip the December meeting. January is tricky. It comes at the first day of the year is the first Wednesday of the year. So it falls on a holiday, it conflicts with a few of our other meetings. And it's a tricky time for, based on a couple of events this week, that tended to be a tricky time 4 years ago. And I think just for a variety of reasons, we're really eager to make February our next meeting. However, based on tonight's discussion, that doesn't mean we won't have a subcommittee meeting between now and then. I think that's warranted and requested. Awesome. Okay. I would love to, for those that maybe just that piqued some questions, we do have that as an update at the end, but maybe we can get to the clean air room slides, and I really appreciate your comment, Doug. Well, actually, with that, I think I'm passing actually to Sarah. She's the incentives guru I just mentioned, and she is going to give our first couple of slides.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks everyone for having me today. My name is Sarah, and I am with the grants department. I am the supervisor over the Clean Air Rooms program and all the staff who handle the inquiries and process all of the projects. So as you can see in total, we have $1 million that we allocated for air purifiers in the community. To date, we've distributed over 1,100 units, which is only about 1/4 of the allocated SERP money. We have over $700,000 of purifiers to give out. So we're doing pretty good, but we still have a long way to go to reach that SERP $1 million allocation. Since the program opened, we've worked with the CSC and multiple CPOs to do outreach. We attended over 30 events, and we've planned events and signed up residents for this program. We've also done social media campaigns and outreach to schools, elementary and community colleges in the community. Next slide. So the program has definitely been successful. As I mentioned, we've distributed over 1,100 units in the community. But as you can see with the graph on the right, the amount of applications that we have been receiving has been generally trending down, even with the continued outreach measures from the outreach department. As you can see, we did due to events where we got a lot of applications, but outside of that, it's just, trickling in as the months go by. So to ensure the rest of the SERP funds get out to the community, we wanted to talk about maybe expanding the program, maybe using a portion of the remaining funds to reach even more residents. And Jessica will talk about that, but before we do talk about that, I'll hand it over to Cass from our outreach and communications team to just discuss the details of all of the outreach efforts that we've had with this program.
Hi, thanks, Sarah. This is Cassandra from the Valley Air District. So as Sarah has explained, there has been some successes with the program, and we are noticing that, applications are coming in by word of mouth. If we get one person to sign up and they're talking to their neighbors or to their friends that live within the area, they're more apt to, hop online and sign up and see if they qualify. There's also been great success with outreach from trusted community members and CBOs. So we're thankful for our partners and for those of you, in this meeting that have helped us with this. Also, success through a domino effect, one person signing up also encourages another, kind of the same as word of mouth. And then the fact that the application has been made in such a way that we tried to be extremely flexible and not cumbersome. So it's a short, quick way. You can either scan a QR code, type in your address, and it'll tell you yes or no if you qualify or you don't. Some challenges that we've encountered is, when we're out there in the community and we're talking to individuals, even though we're there in front of them and we have a unit in front of them, there's just this major distrust. They don't believe that, it sounds a little too good to be true. Also, we've encountered, we'll get so close and we'll spark their interest. And then when we tell them that we need proof of residency, suddenly everything just shuts down and they don't want to proceed any further. And that's understandable. The CBOs have shared that they are conducting door-to-door, they're trying to do door-to-door applications and they are getting some pushback. Individuals just don't want to sign up, but they're still leaving the information in the flyer so that way, they can do it on their own terms. Next. So this graph or this slide shows you the things that we are doing and currently continue to do. This is, something that we will continue to focus on. We do send out social media posts. We have reached out to community centers. I was really, really excited because not too long ago, I was in Van Buskirk's community center and I was just kind of walking around to see what was posted up on their bulletin board. And they did have our clean air rooms flyer up there. So I was excited to see that. We've reached out to doctors' offices, pulmonologists. We've reached out to the housing authority, different housing authorities. We're working really closely with schools. They've been a huge support and sending out our flyers and allowing us to come on the campuses and distribute information. We've done food distributions, the lawnmower trade-in event, community events, replace workshops, and working through CAPA. Our current focus right now is through Nextdoor to do targeted outreach. We're working on some social media posts for that, as well as Peach Jar to still, filter that information through the schools. Churches. Churches have been a little bit difficult. However, one of them did contact us and state that they are willing to put this information up on their website. They do have a weekly newsletter that goes out. And so they're going to share all this information so that way their congregation can receive this. So it's a new partner that we've pulled in that's willing to help us. So we're super grateful for that. And then as well as targeted social media posts to like the Stockton Facebook groups, smaller groups that are within the AB617 area. Some other things that we would like to consider is it was brought up to look at sober living homes and youth transitional housing. So those are things that we're going to look at. Yeah. And who do I pass it off to next? Sarah, is that you?
Me, sorry, I was raising my hand, but unmuting when you're sharing your screen is difficult. So everything that we just described and that trend we're seeing, it's not unique necessarily to Stockton. We have $1 million in Shafter and in Fresno. And I think generally as expected, we saw kind of a peak and maybe a little drop off. So we ramped up outreach. We partnered with a bunch of different community groups to do a bunch of different outreach. We paid mini grants to community groups to help us get the word out. That offer still stands, by the way, for folks in the Stockton area. And what we heard, this is actually a suggestion from Shafter in particular, and it trickled into Fresno, who was also really eager, is, well, how do we expand it to groups that might actually be locations where some people spend most of their day, and in particular where some of the most vulnerable populations spend most of their day. And in that case, folks were suggesting that we reach to daycares. That can be, of course, in-home daycares would be eligible because that's someone's already their house. But daycare facilities, childcare centers, senior living centers, nursing homes, or additional spaces, much like what Cass said, which I would characterize, and I'm going to go back in those slides, as those sober living homes and youth transitional housing potentially as well. We would really be eager to do that, but the units that we're talking about for facilities like that, when they house a lot of people, we would need to slightly adjust the way we'd run the program for that group of people, because either the units would need to be larger or we would need to do more than one unit, because a daycare, for example, or a sober living facility might have multiple rooms with a lot of different people. And given that it's a facility with sensitive residents, it might still be of interest, and it certainly would actually be in alignment with CARB's incentives guidelines as well as the district's guidelines. We would think, and this is our, our thoughts with you, it's what we've been doing in Fresno and Shafter as well, is that up to 25% of the funding would be allocated to this effort. And we would check in with you all to see how it's going, and bring updates and adjust as needed. So that's something that we're thinking would be in alignment with the other two communities. And it's not that we're giving up on the residential side. In fact, if you look back at I'm just going to go back, we're going to flip around a lot. Really what we're talking about is still about $500,000, which is twice as much as we've already spent over 2 years. So it still gives us a lot of room to do a continued outreach that Cass just mentioned for the individual residential households, while also reaching out to other populations. So that's something that was asked of us in Shafter. We worked, identified the ability to do it through the CARB guidelines for Shafter and Fresno. And of course, we wanted to bring it to you all as our other community that has this measure. So today we're hoping to maybe answer some questions or even just get a temperature check from you all if this is something that is an expansion that you all support in the Stockton community. As we go to make this program work in the other two communities, we wanted to make sure that we had alignment or understanding of where all the communities stood. And so maybe I'll pass it to Laura just to kind of facilitate this piece or see if there's any concerns that folks have or questions that folks have, certainly of me, but also of Cass and of Sarah about the program or the outreach.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. And I'll actually pass it to Jared.
Oh,
but before
sorry,
passing
yes,
it-
Jared was facilitating. Thank you.
Yeah. Before we pass it to Jared, Margot, we see you have your hand raised, so feel free to unmute yourself. Oh, I just unmuted you.
I'm going to reiterate what I said last time, and I don't want to be a downer on this, but I really want these units to go to residents. I can still remember when I got your notice that that it was available for anybody anybody, it wasn't dependent on financial status or anything like that. And it was pretty excited.
Yeah.
And I do not understand. I mean, I do understand the reasons why people don't want to give their information. I mean, there are some reasons. And I understand the hesitancy about, no, it's too good to be true. I don't want you to bother me. But how can we make it so that it's more more friendly to the residents? I've been talking to people about it. I don't follow through with them. I don't know if they follow through or not, but that's all. I'm not going to say I'd vote against it at this point in time, but I just really want these units to go to residents. We have a lot of residents, and 5,000 units is not that many, I don't think. That's all. Thank you.
This is Jessica, and I'll just say on here, we do have an option, and I think maybe to assuage your hesitancy to vote no, we're definitely open to one of the options just being, let's, continue to work and revisit this later. We will still be going ahead with the change and the expansion in Shafter and Fresno as requested. That doesn't mean that we can't revisit it later for Stockton. And I don't know if other folks, maybe, I was going to say SB is a great person. SB is part of one of the groups that we work with pretty closely to do this outreach. And maybe SB or others, if you have done this outreach work, it's one thing for folks to talk to Cassandra from the district, but maybe to you, they're also sharing other things about the program and why it's hard to get to folks. So SB, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, yeah, this is SB. So basically, I just wanted to like maybe update as far as like what's going on with the outreach efforts. So everyone, for example, we did like layer the outreach with Valley Can and with the different workshops they've been having out at Mountain Mike's for the vehicle trade-in. And so on average, they have about 150 people or so that come through that. They're there for a couple of hours. And so with those folks, we're able to sit down with them and help them process anything that they need to sign up. And almost every single one of them have been able to sign up for that. So then that is folks from our area as well. I mean, obviously for AB617, because that's even though it's taking place at the Mountain Mike's and Weston Ranch. So that's worked out really well. So now what we've done is, as a result of that, we had another event at the gentleman that has the used electric vehicle lot over here in Stockton, and we had a great response there as well. So now what we're going to do is we're taking our teams over to like the flea market and to other areas, but how they're attracted is that they're able to see the actual filter, right? They're actually seeing it and they know what it's like. So they get super excited because now they're able to see what it is. So it's not just like a flyer. So that's one thing. And then so we're able to help them, like I said, to onboard them into that's real super simple process in terms of them, filling out the form online, what have you. If they have any issue whatsoever in uploading their documents, the staff on the other side from the district is able to help them, in Spanish or English. And so that's also, we've gotten, positive reviews on that. But we're going to ramp up now because now we're going to be at these facilities with Valley Can. So they're going to be doing the vehicles trade-in, and we're going to be right next to them with our electric vehicle, our lawnmower, and our clean room air filter. So that attracts the people to come and see what it's all about. And so, and that's so we're creating a schedule with Valley Can so we can partner up. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop. And so that's how we're doing it. Besides in the at the flea market, we're going to be going to other like crowded areas, like some of the like the markets, with the Latino community that we've done in the past for our crowd canvassing. So, and I see Mary Elizabeth said farmers markets, because we're trying to target like where our EJ folks are at. And there are some there, so we can potentially look at that. But we will be, like I said, inundating like the flea market and then like some of the other crowded areas where we know previously we've been able to hit like a lot of numbers with our EJ folks. So that's where we're at. And so, I could definitely share that schedule once we solidified that, within like the next week or so with Valley Can. But that's kind of where we're at. And so it's gonna ramp up. And to your point, Margot, yeah, there's like those units are probably gonna go really fast because what spreads even faster is word of mouth. That's really fast because then people start telling others and they just like, take the flyers to their folks. So we've been present at a lot of different events, but we're ramping that up.
Thank you, SB. Before we transition, I wanted to highlight some of the comments and questions I was seeing in the chat. So Hector asked, how would we be able to get a location like a care facility to receive more than one? And thank you, Jess, for answering that. Once we open up that part of the program, we would have a separate application for care facilities to apply for multiple. I also saw Jazzy in the chat asked, have there been any videos created explaining the process on social media? And have there been small ads on social media similar to the vehicle replacement measure? And Hector said, we have a video that we have created. I have previously shared it with Valley Air. And so wanted to highlight those questions and see your comment, Mary Elizabeth, about the farmers market, which I think we touched on. Margo, I see your hand raised. The floor is yours.
Yeah, just another comment. So SB is doing some vigorous outreach, and I just wonder if we might consider using some of this money as an incentive for the people who accept a unit and then refer someone who also accepts a unit, like a $10 gift card or even a $5 gift card for people who move on. You know how Pete's does it, refer a friend kind of thing. And if they buy or if they accept, then you get something too. Just to get these out in the community. This seems to be such a stumbling block. I'm sorry. That's all.
No, don't be sorry. It's something that's baffled us a little bit as well. Like I said, this is not just unique to Stockton. I do think it's slightly behind the other two communities, but it's not unique. We are having a similar approach, and we have, I would say, in each one of them, a lot of community groups that we are paying to do outreach, to go to these events, to be in the communities, in addition to you heard from our groups. There's someone from Maya or Heather's team in one of these communities, if not once a week, there, at some point, a couple times a week, but depending on the time of year. So I think there's a lot of our version of outreach. I do hear what SB's saying, and there's maybe some growth there. Margo, just to directly answer your question, I don't see a path with incentives funding that we get from CARB for that. But I'm happy to dig into other creative ways to incentivize folks. And I wonder if there's maybe a little bit of brainstorming we can do on our outreach side. I know there's some creative outreach we can do. But I do love the idea and the thought process there. The funding that we have is very specific in how we can spend it, as you all know from working on project plans with us. But I don't want to lose that thread, because I think there's something there about how do we make sure that word of mouth is an enticing thing for folks.
I just had another. Well, I wanted to ask another question. I think that I've asked this question before, and but the operation of the church versus state. So we cannot do this with churches or and that's my question, because we're not getting all the minorities. We're getting specific minorities. We're not getting all the minorities. So we have to do something to get out there and get to the minorities that we need to get to. Not just specific minorities, but a lot of other minorities.
Everett, I think you bringing up a great point about just how we reach out to various groups. Churches are our current focus. There's nothing stopping us. I think Cassandra just mentioned that it's been a little bit of a struggle. She's made some inroads. If you all, and I know that there's folks on here very involved in churches, in your community, or folks who are, please give us that information. Please let Cassandra know. We'd love, maybe that's one big piece of the puzzle, even though we've been trying, that we're missing maybe from a different connection. So that is not a barrier. We can work with churches. I did see Doug and then Jazzy and Bobby.
Thank you. Well, I like the topic of my outreach. Because I know that I have talked to people who, like, I tell them about the free monitor airflow. You know what I mean? And they're like, really? And then they say, and I say, yeah. You can feel it because you're fitting in this area. You qualify for this. And but they get a little skeptic about it, like, there's nothing you can get for free, don't, no. And they're kind of like apprehensive about that, so, and as far as the different minority, and I don't know, because sometimes they get burned by things that they think that have to do with free. They want information from them, and they kind of, they don't just not sure about that. So, but also, I think sometimes like you, the TikTok, TikTok known people are known TikTok as a community social app. So if you go to TikTok, you'll reach out to a lot of people there as well. But it's something new, but it hasn't been new for a while. But it definitely reached out to the community. 'Cause we always try for community member in TikTok. So and also, and I remember, and also on TV when I was watching on a smart TV when I was looking at the app like Tubi or Watchy, they have, there were people, I see people or political advertisement, but yeah, there were like constantly every reminder every 15 minutes, about it, but I don't know about you, you can use that resources for information to reach out to people as well, so I don't know the cost. I don't know how much can you get it, as far as I'm concerned. That'd be interesting to know about as well too, regarding to, like other people said, it's hard to get the minority who are hard to reach minority, disadvantaged minority, to get help as well. Thank you.
I'd love to hear Bobby and Jazzy, and then I think Heather is like brimming with answers. So maybe if we hear from Bobby and Jazzy first, and then I'd love to pass it to Heather to talk about some of our outreach strategies. And I'm going to practice a TikTok dance while we hear from them, because I actually, joking aside, I think that's such a great point. Douglas, thank you.
Hey, this is Jazzy. I had a couple of questions about the other measures, if they require the same like proof of address for like the lawnmower replacement and
Like
things
fireplace and all of those.
Yeah, and has there been any resistance for those measures as well?
That's such a great question. There are requirements. Basically, the idea is that we want to make sure that the resources stay in the community, and that there aren't folks that come in because they see that there's free stuff happening. I mean, we've seen it because we have run addresses through or asked for the proof of address, and they go, "Well, I don't actually live there. I live in," and they'll list somewhere else. And so it's our way of double checking that folks are in the community. I think you bring up such a good point, and I know it was a point that Margot raised earlier, just about accessibility and making it streamlined. I think we're at a point, but we're always open to continuing to streamline. I think we're at a point where it's as streamlined as possible, as little information as we need as possible. But we'll always continue to look at that and see if that's one of the things that we can streamline. But it is one of the main ways that we check that the program is serving the folks it needs to serve. So I'll just say that that's kind of the main reason behind it. And I will say, we used to make it a little bit more like it's not an income-driven program. So we don't ask for like pay stubs or tax returns. Most of the time, it's just an ID that has your name and your address on it. It used to be like a utility bill, but now it's not. I mean, that can be one of the options, but so I know it's not the case for everyone, and I'm not trying to say that folks still don't want to share that, but we try to make it to where it's whatever piece of information folks are comfortable with sharing, and we do have a list that's out there.
This is Heather. I'm going to jump in now. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. Douglas, TikTok. We've talked about it a lot over here, and we try and take what we've learned from the success of TikTok and implement it in the resources we have. For example, I can't remember if this was in the outreach subcommittee or in the main group where we showed and talked about our Believe It commercials. But we have a series of commercials that we've created in-house that advertise our grant programs. We have seen so much leverage from these commercials because what we do is we take the grantees, the actual recipients from the Valley, the residents in the Valley, in their space, their home, or wherever, and create a commercial that shows, guess what? It is real. Believe it. We've put this funding out there. This person took advantage of it, and this is how awesome it is. And we show that in the commercial. I was quickly trying to find it. I'll drop it into chat if I can point you to it because they're all listed in our YouTube channel. But on that point, we do have plans, and we'll be making a clean air rooms video. Short, not long dissertation, TikTok fun, short. Hey, this is real. This is what it looks like, and here's how you do it. And then increase frequency, as a couple of you have noted. So yes, we're on that front. I agree with you that the visuals and the actuals, and I appreciate SB's comment and the work they do to actually make it real. We are on the same page. That Believe It series is really working for us. We've got Spanish and English for the mower program. We've got Spanish and English for the change out program for the fireplaces. And then soon we'll have clean air rooms too. So I wanted to tell you that I appreciate all your feedback, and I am very tickled. The note about churches, and it's funny that even Hector struggles. We will hit our sweet spot. I fully believe, Margot, that while it is a challenge now, we're going to be talking about this months from now and be very happy and successful. So I'm pushing forward, team, and we've got outreach to support it.
Thank you so much for clarifying those outreach, Heather. I wanted to pause and see if there was any folks that maybe felt any differently or wanted to expand the program. And again, like, yeah, this is a temperature check, so a chance just to gauge how folks are feeling.
I'll share my slide to make it clear.
Yeah, so any range of perspectives from loving it to liking it, or maybe even having some more concerns that you'd like to revisit in 6 months.
What is our timeline to use this money so we don't lose it?
A great question, Margot, and definitely important. One of the things we've been, this is a benefit to you all being a second year community because we're learning from our first year communities. One of the things we like to say, because it's part of CARB's blueprint, is really the SERP is on this 5-year timeline. But we are finding, especially programs like this that we know take a little longer, and as you know, we didn't launch immediately. We're planning to expand year by year as needed and as the funding allows. And I know that seems like a vague answer, and that's because the way the funding comes in, each funding pot kind of has a different year that's out into the future. And so we will be able to kind of keep expanding it. I can have a more direct question or more direct answer, but it's really a couple of years, if not longer, depending on how far we make it and what changes we intend to make. So this is not something that we need to spend by next June, or even maybe the year after.
I think I see some like it's in the chat, love it. Nate in the chat, I would prefer that we stay with residential for now with a possible transition date to expansion if distribution remains below needed targeted levels. And then Mary Elizabeth, I see your comment in the chat. I want to wait 6 months to expand to others than residents.
I think maybe just generally what I'm hearing is I can see just general support. I don't think anyone's against, in general, not with this funding, but like supporting as many people as we can. And I'm hearing a lot of focus on residents. And what we can do is we can come up with, and let's see if this lands for folks, at our February meeting, what if we come up with a target by which we all collectively aim for our 6-month report out to you all. And using that target can determine and help us sort of have a more definitive metric that allows us to make a collective decision as to whether we expand or not. I don't have that target ready right now, so I don't want to just make up a number, but we'd be happy to work with you all on that target, maybe propose something, see how it lands in February, and then use that as the target we check in on in May, and see if that can allow us to expand and feel better about it. That way it's a 6-month check-in, but that check-in will now have a target that we're kind of aiming for.
And thank you, Nate. See your comment about agreeing with Jessica's update expansion plan about checking back in February with the target. I see a thumbs up from Margot. Well, thank you all for your input. I think we got a lot of valuable feedback that will gear us towards February being a check-in and update about that target with the Clean Air Rooms update. Any other items or things coming up for folks before we transition to standing updates? Awesome. Well, thank you all again for engaging in the discussion throughout this meeting. At this time, we will be receiving updates from some of the present agencies. Please feel free to ask any questions in the chat or after the updates are completed. And so I will pass it to SJCOG, who will be sharing a brief presentation about the unmet transit needs assessment, and they're hoping to get your feedback via survey. And so I will pass it to SJCOG.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and let me know if you all see it okay. Thumbs up? Okay, great. Thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tran. I've attended these meetings before. It's been a while, but for the folks that aren't familiar with me, I'm with the San Joaquin Council of Governments. I'm a planner with SJCOG, and today I'll be covering the Unmet Transit Needs Assessment for the upcoming fiscal year 25-26. Let me go ahead and go to the next slide. If you're not familiar with the unmet transit needs, or I'll refer to this as the UTN overview, this is something that SJCOG does annually. And the purpose of this assessment is to help us identify any unmet transit needs that may exist in the county, and it gives us the opportunity to consider those unmet transit needs before any of the funding goes to anything non-transit, which would be streets and roads. And so if unmet transit needs are identified, then there would be an evaluation that goes for the survey responses that we receive and determine whether we go forward with the comment or not. And to kind of define what UTN is, it is a transportation service that's not currently provided to those residents who use or would use public transportation regularly, if available to meet their life expectations. And so I know a majority here are, or everyone here are Stockton residents. And so, of course, your local transit would be the RTD. And so if RTD isn't providing services at a time that you would need to go to school, go to a doctor's appointment, that would be considered a UTN comment. And so if you regularly need to use the RTD service for a specific time every day, that could be a possible comment that you can kind of voice in our survey. And again, we'll take that into consideration. And right now we are doing our public engagement, public outreach phase, which started in October 1st, and we're doing this all the way into the end of the calendar year. And so similarly to what I'm doing right now, we're doing presentations. We have 2 public hearings for this year. We're doing social media posts, and the survey is the majority of how we're collecting this feedback. So here is the survey. You can scan this, the QR code. I will also drop the link in the chat, and you can reach us via email on our website as well. But I'll leave this here for a minute for folks if you're trying to scan it on your phone. And I'm here if there are any questions or comments about this. I'm happy to take any.
Thank you, Christine. Any questions or comments about the survey?
And I will send the flyers to the Air District folks to forward to the rest of the group as well.
Awesome. If no other questions, I will pass it to Kyle from CARB. Do you have any updates you'd like to share?
Hey again, everybody. I don't have much of an update to share, but I do want to point out that the The next board meeting for CARB is actually scheduled for tomorrow, and it extends out onto the into the 8th this week. So it's right around the corner. The agenda has already been posted. They're usually posted about 10 days to 2 weeks in advance. So I just dropped a link in the chat to it. Specifically, though, I want to point out that on the 8th, the board is going to be hearing about some proposed amendments to the low carbon fuel standard. I know some folks here have in the committee have been asking for information about LCFS for quite a while now. And kind of with that in mind, I just wanted to mention, I think our board may be really interested to hear what you have to say. So I just wanted to point all that out, and really that's it for me.
Thank you, Kyle. Any questions for Kyle or CARB? Awesome. And in the Air District, do you all have any updates that you would like to share?
I'll update you
I do
all.
have a question. I'm sorry, cut you. Kyle, do you guys go to the Port of Stockton meeting as well? Because I know that there's a lot of things going on there. Changes that are about their tendency to have it more what do you call the word I'm looking for? Not transparent, more like air-free zone something. So I don't know if Jeff is around listening or not, but they have accomplished a lot of things going on when I was there listening to their meetings as far as that concerned. And I was wondering the the air quality and also the car had been with them as well too, to see what the progress will be. Thank you.
Yeah, for my part, I don't typically listen in or sit in on San Joaquin Valley board hearings or anything like that. I have listened into them before, especially if there's an item pertaining to, well, Stockton especially, but I've listened into a couple that pertain just to like AB617 stuff a little more broadly as well. But for the most part, I don't.
Kyle, I think maybe I misheard Douglas. I think he was also talking more about like the port meetings. Maybe I misunderstood.
Oh, but I thought you said board meetings. The port meetings, yeah. I do sit in on the port meetings, yeah.
Do I have that? Have you noted the different changes? Have the CARB have worked with the Port of Stockton regarding any project that you've been doing as far as that concerned? Because I was involved that. I think there was a board. There's another meeting coming up for Stockton board as well, right?
Jeff and I, maybe I should hand this over to Jeff, actually.
Yeah, there's an
Jeff,
upcoming meeting. Our meetings are the third Wednesday of every month. So I'm trying to figure out what day that is. I believe it is the 20th is our next port outreach meeting. And Kyle typically attends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One of
I
these
don't know
days
if
soon, I'm
there's
gonna
any
come make it out in person.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
show
yeah.
up one day.
I think that's the 18th.
I have it as the 20th.
Are we talking, sorry, maybe to clarify, Mary, are you talking about the board meeting for the port? Yes. And then, yeah, so I think you are both correct in what and then I think Jeff, you're talking about the port outreach.
Yes.
Meeting.
I'm talking about the port outreach.
Yeah. So then that's what Jeff was talking about. And that's, I believe, is that what you said, the 20th?
Yeah, that's the third Wednesday of every month. Yeah.
Perfect.
This is Jared again. Thank you for that question, Douglas. Before moving on, Cynthia, I saw that you had your hand raised. Did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Cynthia here. Since we're on the topic of the ports, I wanted to definitely congratulate the Port of Stockton on the $110 million that they just got from the Clean Ports program that was announced last week. My sense of time is all over the place, but I think they just got a bunch of money for electrical projects, and I'm just kind of interested in if that's going to be an update we'll be getting soon. Is this something that we could potentially put like on an enforcement subcommittee agenda? Interested in learning more about how the port is going to be using all this funding. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's some community engagement components tied to this funding, and interested in learning how this CSC would be able to engage. So yeah, just wanted to, since we're on the topic of the ports. Thank you.
Thank you for stealing my thunder, Cynthia. I was so excited to announce it, but no. Yes, there's a lot. So the grant won't start until probably February. We're just in early discussions with EPA and working out. We have a whole work plan we have to work out, an agreement in order to be able to accept the funds. So it seems like a really easy process, but it just takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of questions that we have to answer. So, but yes, there is a whole there's a workforce development component, there's an air quality monitoring component, and additional work we're going to do with the community. So really excited. It'll help us to get to over 95% zero emission cargo handling equipment. There's 2 zero emission mobile harbor cranes. There's 5 5 yard trucks. There's some money for Martinez refinery to do some plug-in, some shore power work. Let me see what else. I'm probably forgetting some other thing. Oh, an electric rail car indexer. So that's going to go and help Stockton Soda, so that when they're moving those long trains around, they can shut off any locomotives that have brought in the rail cars. So
Well,
there's a lot. I'll be happy to go over all of it. We're going to go over it probably in depth at the POC meeting in a couple weeks, and then there'll be a lot out coming up that we'll share.
Yeah, so sorry for stealing your thunder, but there's like 10 minutes. There was 10 minutes left, and I wanted to put this
No,
out there
I was
before.
just giving you a hard time. It's totally fine. I appreciate it. No.
Yeah, if
No,
I could request that this be an agenda item. I think it's really exciting and important for the future meetings before this leaves my brain and we don't see each other for a few months and get holiday food brain.
We were so excited. I mean, we got the 7th largest award in the country, so we were pretty ecstatic. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'm looking forward to tackling that.
So Jeff, this is Margot. Just one quick thing, because you mentioned the electric rail car indexer, and your note said that it's going to replace up to 5 diesel locomotives.
Well, I don't know if I probably 4, but yes, they won't. They probably would turn off 3 of them, but it's going to remove any additional locomotive operation to offload Stockton Soda's soda ash.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cynthia, for the question, and Jeff for the update. Super exciting things that are happening. Any other updates, Jeff, from Port of Stockton?
Yes, just a couple quick things. Yes, our next POC will be on the 20th. We're going to focus a little bit on our 2022 emission inventory as that's wrapping up. We're working hard on trying to help, and maybe that's something I know that outreach and kind of getting messaging to the community can be challenging, but we really want to get a lot of folks signed up for our jobs board. And so we're actually in the process of making a video to help explain to people how to do that, as well as just try to get a little bit more excitement around that as well. We did raise approximately $30,000 during our first annual golf tournament, and that's going to go to help support Boggs Track community, including the community center that needs some after school programs reintroduced, as well as to help support the elementary school. And we were just out at the elementary school the other day. We participated in their trunk or treat, as well as our port police, and 2 of our tenants were out as well, Norton Lilly and Nevada Cement. And then the only other thing is we are still receiving clothing for the back to school clothing drive for the school. So if anybody has anything to drop off, we'll be accepting that. And Margot made a really nice donation of some shirts. I think it was last month that we've already dropped off. That was a wonderful addition. And that's it, unless anyone has any other questions. Oh, I will mention one other thing. And I heard, sorry, I was driving earlier and I heard the discussion about DTE. I am trying to have DTE come and speak at one of our POC meetings to give an update and kind of walk through their process, kind of explain what they do, share about their emission control and their emissions as well. So I'm happy and working on putting that together. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions for me. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. I wanted to circle back to the Air District real quick to see if there was any additional updates.
I was just going to let folks know that I mentioned earlier, but one of the next items about 617 in particular that we're taking to our board will happen in December, and that's when we take our annual reports to the board. So I just wanted to flag that for you all. Our meetings are always on the third Thursday, and so that would be December 19th. And we're, again, excited to get feedback from you all to incorporate in those annual reports before we share them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other agencies present that had any other updates?
If I could just add to mine real quick, Jared. Sorry. So we tried to make our meetings hybrid the last month. With some success. We had a little bit of technical issues. A couple people did show up in person. For this next month, because we have some people traveling, we did send out an email, but it is just going to be completely virtual for November, just to let people know. Sorry.
Thank you. Well, in the interest of time, I think we can transition to wrapping up and next steps. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you all for engaging in thoughtful conversations to help address Stockton's concerns around air quality. We would like to spend some time talking through our future meetings and possible agenda setting meeting. As usual, we will not be hosting a December meeting, and because January's meeting lands on a holiday, we will not have a January meeting either. This means our next CSC meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. Because there are going to be 2 months with no meetings, we are proposing to host an agenda setting meeting in either December or January. Although we will not be having a meeting, we will be making progress on action items and implementation of measures we will be discussing. Were there any questions or comments around having that agenda setting meeting in lieu of no CSC meetings throughout the rest of the year?
I have a question. Could you repeat that again regarding to when January meeting? What?
Yes. So since there will not be a December meeting, and because the typical January meeting falls on a holiday, the next CSC meeting will not be until February of 2025. And so to have a nice checkpoint, their district is proposing to have an agenda setting meeting where we talk about potential agenda items for that February meeting in either December or January.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me.
Jessica, can we have a Christmas party agenda? That way we could have it in person, even though it's going to be the last meeting of the year, the last dinner, the last fellowship.
This is Jessica. We are
I'm just
proposing.
saying that. That's it. Just a discussion.
Yeah, I'll just say we are proposing to do an in-person meeting. We're thinking March. We are wrapping up the final official meetings in Fresno and in Shafter. And so they are meeting in person in January and February, and we want to meet with you all in person in March. We usually do our annual in-person meeting with Arvin Lamont in December, and then the holidays hit. So I don't think that there's time for an in-person celebration, although we're always happy to make March some holiday or some other. I think there's a couple of great things we can celebrate at that time. Certainly not only just celebrate, but also celebrate some of the work we're doing. I'll just remind you, or maybe just reiterate what Jared just said, which is, and reiterate what I said earlier, which is in between now and February, it sounds like we're going to have at least one subcommittee meeting, if not two, depending on if we combine them or not, and that's air monitoring and regulatory enforcement. And then what Jared was proposing is that potentially in January or December, whatever makes sense, and we'll just find time on a calendar that makes sense for all of us, also have an agenda setting meeting, because we haven't had one in a long time, and because we have this big gap between now and probably January when we have it, new things might occur to you that, to Cynthia's point about a lot going on today, there might be other things that you want to bring up for a February meeting that aren't occurring to us. So it's just something that we're hoping to schedule, and just making sure that folks, if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and just put a few things on the calendar. If there's no objections,
That's fine, Jessica. Heather, that'd be great. Just take a catch up, but if not, that's okay. They just get to wishful thinking. But anyway, just keep going. Just do what you got to do as far as having meeting contacted at least once. Not like they don't have to be in a mandatory meeting, but definitely keep in touch. That's all. Thank you.
I hear you. Yes.
This is Dr. Farrell. I'd like to suggest that we meet in January for agenda setting.
I love it.
Thank you, Dr.
We
Farrell.
would be happy to do that. Thanks, Jared.
And thank you for your question, Douglas.
And I'm so glad he said that, because I didn't want to be the bearer of bad news. If you're gonna December and January be out, please, we love that. We love gifts too. So don't just forget about us.
Thank you, Everett. Yes. We would like to now, in interest of time and respecting everybody's time, wrap things up by reviewing the action items captured in our tracker during our meeting today. I will pass it to my colleague, Amy, to share the action items. Please feel free to ask for clarification or ask to update any action items more accurately. And I might have been mistaken. I'm passing it to Laura.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. This is Laura. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. So our first action item, Air District will report back at their February CSC meeting regarding monitoring at DTE. AD will bring conversation regarding DTE monitoring to the regulatory subcommittee meeting. The Air District will find time to re-engage enforcement committee. And during February CSC meeting, the Air District and CSC will co-develop a target metric for clean air rooms measure to reach community members before expanding the measure to reach more sensitive populations. And the Air District will send CSC subcommittee meeting dates. And during the agenda setting, we will go a little bit deeper into the different agenda topics for February. And yeah, I think that's it. Anything coming up for you all? Anything I may have missed?
This is Dr. Farrell again. If the port is doing things for the school and community, are they doing a holiday get together for the port?
We are doing a port party, and I'm going to invite folks who are, in the CSC as well as the POC. So yes, I'll be sending something out. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. I like a party.
It'll be fun. We'll watch the boats go by with the lights on.
See, we love gifts and parties.
Bye, and I'll just reshare my screen. This is Laura, just so you all can, oh, I don't know where that was there. So y'all can have that visual that our next agenda setting meeting is TBD. Looks like it'll be sometime in January, per some CSC.
Thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Jared, wondering if you'd like to close us off.
Yes, sorry, my Wi-Fi was lagging. Thank you so much for reminding us of the next meeting, Laura. We are grateful for all the CSC has shared during this meeting today, and for bearing with us as we go 2 minutes over. In the interest of time, we will not be having public comment today, but are looking forward to connecting at the agenda setting meeting. And thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Everybody be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.